you have to continually use this, get familiar with it. Second, as a skill, I would say, build your portfolio, not just your resume. So the more you actually do things with it. Because right now, anybody who does not know to code Python, who hasn't had any programming training, can still go develop an app, can still go build a business from scratch. So it gives an opportunity to everybody in the room to go do something small on your own, which will give you hands-on experience with using these technologies, with understanding, oh, this is a sort of new role that can get created. This is what I love doing, and I can convert that into a monetizable job or career for myself. So very important to actually keep doing that versus just reading about it or hearing people talk about it. I think hands-on experience will matter the most.
Thank you. And so now I think it's time we're going to turn to our audience and take a few questions. There, I see a hand in the back.
Hi, my name is Fatul Fargola. I'm a PAF, so I did the fellowship program in spring, so that is my first summit. I'm from New York. I'm from the City College of New York. So I have a question specifically for you, Anu, but also I appreciate if you answered it, Marty. And this goes back to the video game programmer question, jobs that didn't exist before. And for example, my question is, how do you convince people to take a chance on you? If you know you're a curious person, a hard worker, if you get somewhere, you're gonna get on the ground running, and you just need more tools, and especially with AI, like everyone's formulating the perfect resume, the perfect portfolio. What makes you stand out if you know your skills are more connection, talking to people, getting them, empathizing with people, and learning what they really want? So like, if it's the personal things, how do you put that on paper?
Welcome to your first summit. Thanks for the question. Specifically, I would say a few things. One, how do you convince people to take a chance on you? You have to have many shots at goal. So you really have to have the time and the kind of expansive view to say, I'm going to go work with 20 different people. And when I say work with, I'm going to go find out what are they doing. These people seem interesting. They work in a field that I'm interested in, I want to be in. So let me just find a way that I can help them with no expectation of return, right? So just working with them gives you a sense of, oh, this is what they're doing, this is what on the ground it looks like. And most people don't turn down free help, right? So when you say, I just want to be involved, I want to shadow you, I want to see day to day what you do, and I'm going to see if I can add value, if I can help you with whatever you're doing. I think it's important to do that with a variety of people, because when you're starting out, even you don't know what is really appealing to you. So the more area you cover, the more you also tend to know yourself. And second, I think it's even more important, the skills that you talked about, being able to connect with another person, deeply understand what they care about, what values do you share, what motivates you, what keeps you ticking. And I think for all of you first-gen students, you've bridged two worlds already, right? You've bridged the worlds of struggle and success. You've bridged the world of people who work with their hands and people who work with their head. And so you have that unique skill, and that's a big advantage. And that is required more in the coming world, because we need a lot of AI translators, so to speak. People who actually understand what is the thing to be done, like Marty said, and how to actually do it. So it's important that you bridge the worlds of humanity and technology, so people who understand psychology, people who understand how to motivate other people, how to get someone enrolled in a mission, they're going to be much more valuable than before. So that's a big asset. So the more you can actually demonstrate that, so when you go out to help a bunch of different people, it comes up, it's natural, they see what kind of skills shine in you. So the more shots at goal you have, I think the likelier it is that one or two of them work out and you get a chance to go to what you want.
Just very briefly add to that, when you're interviewing for a job, your interviewer, will maybe not say this, but your interviewer is wondering how you are going to help the interviewer get paid and promoted, right? So just turn it around, and if you can communicate that in your interview, you can show that in your interview, you're gonna get the job. And sometimes it comes in unexpected ways. So for instance, you might think my resume is just filled with technical skills, and it is, But what really was my career break is one day the boss comes by and says, hey, somebody told me that you speak Spanish. And I guess he never noticed my last name. And he said, I thought all these years you were Jewish. I said, you couldn't be both. And he said, I need you to go to Buenos Aires the day after tomorrow and talk to our clients about risk management in Spanish. And what he had noticed back from the interview is that I like connecting with people. So speaking Spanish, connecting with people turned out to be way more important than being good at software, because I was the quant, the computer scientist, who would actually get out in the world and talk with clients, real people, and get them to do business with us. And that's going to be the very last thing that gets automated. So these connecting skills, as you say, are really important, and you can show them off in your interview.
Thank you. We're going to take that question in the back. I want to add something to this one really quickly. I'm not a programmer. My degree is in psychology and organizational development. And what I have researched and what I have read is that good hiring managers are always looking for three things, whether they say it or not. Speed, weight, and hunger. Speed is how fast do you learn? How fast can you come up to speed? Weight, they don't care what you've done before. They want to know what you have accomplished. And hunger, why are you trying to do the job that you're doing? What is your hunger for it? Because that's what's going to get you through the tough times. And so speed, weight, and hunger are three things that great hiring managers are always looking for. And I know that first gen students have that in spades. Question in the back.
Thank you so much. Really incredible panel. Congrats on your tremendous success. And I love the spin on the optimism and the opportunity that the curious students can gain in these AI ages. But I also want to get really real that jobs are disappearing and unemployment among college grads is going up. And it's a scary time to be a college graduate when the bottom rung of the career ladder is disappearing. And of course, we hope that everyone in this room and every Braven student can persevere and grab those opportunities. But would love to take the opportunity to get your advice on what you would say students should avoid during these times. What careers do you think students should avoid, given the trends that you're seeing in the job market, just to make sure that they're maximizing their opportunities for a great career amidst the trends today? Thank you.
Great question, Missy.
Thank you. Two things I would explicitly avoid. One is there are many templates you will hear from people who came before you, how they landed their job, how they were successful in their careers. None of those best practices hold as is, right? So a lot of what we are telling you about our past, that's not going to get replicated in the future, because there is, like Missy said, an inflection point that's happening. So first principles thinking is very important. So take lessons from whatever people before you experience the entire thing tell you, but it's very important for you to think for yourself. So avoid getting trapped in best practice advice, I would say one thing. Like we've spoken over the last 20 minutes, I think there are new opportunities getting created, and therefore you have to have the innovation and creativity to really look at things in a completely unique new way. That I think is a good thing. I would frame that very much as that's amazing that you can go look at things from a completely fresh perspective, but that also means that no one's going to give you a to B path well defined, and you just have to walk on that. Second, I would say don't get trapped in the once I have actually gotten a job, that's it, I have made it, that's no longer true, right? Because all of us, Marty, Sam, and I, we have to be continuously learning to be relevant in our jobs, to thrive in the job landscape. So that's going to be true for all of you as well. So growth mindset, curiosity, continuous learning is just a given. It's a fact of life. So the more quickly you are able to embrace that, and the more quickly you are able to orient yourself to, okay, this is what is going to keep happening. And so what are things I enjoy continually learning throughout my life, the more you discover those paths for yourself, I think that's going to be the most sustainable path for success.
And I would just go back to what I've always said, which is there is nothing new under the sun. So in 1980, I figured out that racing against my HP calculator to see who could multiply 10-digit numbers faster, that was a dumb idea, right? It was gonna win every time. So roll forward to 2025, don't do things that computers can do. That's pretty obvious, right? Let the computers do that and find the thing that only people can do, which leads to my second point, which is, yes, I hear jobs are going away. I know that that is true in some sectors. It's not true in finance. It's not true at all in finance. We're hiring just as many young people now as we always have because we need them to grow into old people like me, right? They gotta start somewhere, and we're still hiring them, but the role is different. We don't need Excel jockeys the way we used to, right? But young people who can use the AIs to go find investment opportunities and then use their interpersonal skills to connect with the people at those companies and convince them to take our capital and someone else's capital. We need lots of people who are doing that, and they're people doing that, not AIs. And so I'm an optimist. You just need to, maybe you need to look in different places, and you need to be doing different things, but the jobs are still there. And as you say, new jobs are being invented. And there's going to be some dislocation, right? I'm sure that there's some period of some years, and it's going to be terrible for some people, where the new jobs aren't coming quite fast enough. And we're going to all have to go through this in society. But I'm still an optimist. In fact, I've never been more optimistic about what human beings are going to be able to do in the world with these new tools.
I think we have time for one more question right here.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciated hearing you guys speak. And also one of my best friends is named Anu. Very nice. My name is Parker Chambers. I'm a graduating senior economics major with a minor in public health from Pasadena, California, and I currently attend Spelman College. And I want to connect what I've been learning in economics about labor market discrimination with Dr. Ruha Benjamin, who is a Princeton scholar whose work on race, technology, and what she calls techno-fascism warns us about the dangers of AI hardening inequality. And as an economics major, I've been studying James Heckman's work on racial discrimination in the labor market. We're really comparing his work to Darity and Mason's work and thinking about, does it exist in the labor market? And James Heckman kind of argues that it came from wage gaps are driven as much by differences in early opportunities and skills as by outright employer bias. At the same time, I've been reflecting on Dr. Ruha Benjamin's warning about techno-fascism, how AI and new technologies are being marketed as the future of work, but in practice can reinforce systemic barriers and tell us we either get on the train or we get left behind. And also, James Heckman, he concluded that it was more about systemic barriers as well, instead of completely about market bias. And so my question is, how do we prevent this next wave of technology and AI from deepening existing racial and socioeconomic inequalities, and instead make sure we actually expand access to skills, opportunities, and real equity in the labor market?
Thanks for asking that, Parker. So starting, I would say at the very outset, it is a real risk, right? The more powerful technology is neutral in character. What you put it to use for is really in humans' hands. And AI is so powerful that a lot of what you described, deepening existing biases, potentially hardening a lot of those prejudices is a real risk. This is why you see a lot of action around organizations getting formed around AI safety. One of the companies I work with, they're called Goodfire, they work on something called mechanistic interpretability, which basically describes how AI works, because today it's a black box. And the more we are able to reason and understand how it gives the outputs that it gives, the more we are able to say, okay, what kind of biases, what kind of prejudices went into it. But this is indeed a real danger. So specifically, what are we going to do as a society to deal with it? I think one, it's important that we continue to have AI safety front and center. you see these conversations on a daily basis, and more people put their weight behind it to say, how do we deal with these problems? And I think that discussion and continuing to pursue that is important. Second, legislation is going to be very important. I think we've had some good news, some bad news around regulations, some good ways we've regulated, some bad ways we've regulated around the world, not just in the US. And I think it's going to become an increasingly important, significant topic for all of us lay people, as to how that gets legislated in the future. So both of these things, I think, will see continued progress, but it is important that we stay on top of these threats. And the fact that you're asking this question and you're thinking about it, I think is very significant. Because the more that all of you who are just starting out, the digital natives who are going to become AI natives, they think about it, it gives me hope that we're not just going to push this under the rug and say, oh, this is just how it's going to be.
So here's a killer degree combo: moral philosophy and computer science. One of the great joys that I have being on the Alphabet board is I'm the executive coach of Demis Hassabis. Some of you may know he just got the Nobel Prize for AI last year, and he's the CEO of Google DeepMind, and he is a good human being. We had dinner in London, my house last week, and this was the topic of the dinner. And what are we going to do about it? Well, here's one thing that we're doing. We're taking AI safety and ethics very seriously. We're working, I'm not ready to announce anything, but we think that the Global Center for AI Safety and Governance should be here in the Bay Area for all kinds of reasons. And one of the things that Demis said, he knows that I have this lovely goddaughter who just got a PhD in philosophy and artificial intelligence from Oxford. And he said, that's all great, but I'm pretty sure she's your goddaughter. She's a good human being. And we need large numbers of good human beings to train the AIs. And the last thing I'll say is there's a wonderful book out a few months ago called Genesis. It's by one of my great friends and mentors, Eric Schmidt, who's the CEO of Google, and Henry Kissinger co-authored it with him just before his death. And it's got some very specific answers to your questions. One of the key ideas is we need to train the AIs on all the wisdom accumulated by humanity about ethics and goodness and integrity and compassion and empathy, and all that needs to be built in. But this is not going to happen automatically. I'm not going to name specifically one of the creators of the AIs, but you'll know who it is, right? That AI was trained to say, what would Elon, oh, I can't believe I said his name, what would Elon think about this, and consider his opinions, right? Well, obviously, we at Alphabet need to do the exact opposite of that and describe
We got one more question in the back.
Yes, we do. Hi, thank you all for being here. My name is Ryan Scannell. I'm a professor here, and probably more importantly, I direct the first year writing program. So we put somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,000 students through first year writing classes. And the thing about first year writing classes is that everybody takes it. We're obviously reticent to have AI there. We're certainly not training them to write Python, and many people don't want to be there. And so, I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts about how professors like me, people who teach the students before they're in Braven, before they're career-minded particularly, but they're in classes where we think they're doing important work. How do we work with them to sort of build habits and skills early, that then when they show up at Braven, or they show up at their job interviews, or they show up at other places, they're well prepared to take in what it is that Braven or anybody else is offering?
It's a great question, and I work with a lot of education organizations because it's a personal passion of mine. And a couple of things that I've seen work really well. Sal Khan from the Khan Foundation has built a platform called Khanmigo. And the unique thing about Khanmigo that I found was it fosters a love of learning. So it doesn't matter which subject or which specialization we're talking about, it's really Socratic in nature to say, what is interesting about this particular area? How do you think about this problem and why is it relevant to your day-to-day? So it creates the sort of love of learning intrinsically, which I've found to be very magical. So that is actually available free for all Get Well students. That's an interesting platform, I think, to check out and see if it helps. A second one I've seen is Duolingo as a customer of Atlassian, and I am on a 542-day streak learning German. And the kind of engagement it produces is very much, again, it's joyful. So intrinsically, people who use it want to keep doing it. It's just a 5-minute investment a day. So you find whatever appeals to you, and the gamifying that learning, really releasing the joy intrinsically for what you're learning has been very helpful. So the Duolingo has a free subscription, and they also have an education program. So that also feels like kind of real-world tool that you can learn from.
You mentioned creative writing. So one thing that many of us have noticed about the AIs is their ideas aren't original. And by definition, they're not original, right? Their ideas are just pattern matching across everything that's on the internet. But there are some things that they're really, really good at, and I use them myself. So the other day, The Economist asked me to write an op-ed on AI governance, ethics, regulation. And, so I'll admit, I used AIs to help me write. I'm a good writer, but if you can just take the ideas, which are mine, and you're not going to find them on the internet, that's why The Economist asked me to write the op-ed, right? So the ideas are original, but then I say, hey, I wrote this other op-ed, can you make it in that style? Because that went through a lot of copy editing. And can you apply the principles of Strunk and White and get rid of all the passive verbs? And then suddenly it was like, wow, it was much, much better, right? So this idea of using the AIs, but not just phoning it in and letting the AI write your essay, it's going to be garbage and it's not going to be very interesting. But letting it do the polishing, let it take it to the next level, that's the kind of thing that we need to teach our people to do and still be able to write on their own.
Well, thank you for hanging in there with us. I want to thank